Hey guys, I wanted to make a video and update you about my skin a little bit because I made one a while ago with no makeup on and then several since then showing you guys. Obviously I've been dealing with a pretty severe bout of adult acne, everybody's favorite surprise companion. Anyway, I'm basically on the other side of it now. It's been clear for a couple months now. I'm doing some different things and I wanted to share those things and also just some general thoughts about the subject. So last time when I made the first video about this and I had no makeup on whatsoever, I was like a month into starting Differin, and I was doing everything right as far as like nothing irritating, following like all the rules, like not overusing it, using like Aquaphor around sensitive spots, like building it up, just everything that anybody said to do to keep it like a gentle and effective long-term process. I looked at it as like, okay, that's going to take a few months, and it just didn't work at all. It just got steadily worse and worse, and I used it for like 6 months, and it didn't do anything. Well, it didn't do anything other than make my skin feel shittier and more sensitive, and it felt like everything was like one step forward, 2 steps back, where I'd be like, oh, is it getting better today for a little bit? And then it'd be like, no, it isn't. It super is not. So anyway, it was a horrible thing for my mental health, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but I wanted to get to like, I assume you guys want to know like what's working quickly. So the main thing that has made a difference for me is Spironolactone. I finally went to a dermatologist, which unfortunately, if you live in the United States, it would be easy to tell people like, just go to a dermatologist. Like there are doctors for this and they can help you if it's like, topical stuff and, common sense is not cutting it, then just go. But it's hard to see doctors here if you don't have a budget for that, and if depending on like your health insurance. So I was fortunate to get better health insurance and I was able to go to a dermatologist without it being like crazy. And acne actually is covered for the most part by most insurance policies because it's actually a disease. And that was so helpful for me to hear, because part of me, and I think many others dealing with this, feels kind of guilty or shameful for being so upset by it, because it's kind of viewed as like a vanity thing, which part of it is like, yeah, this doesn't look great and that doesn't feel great that it doesn't look great, but also it hurts. It hurts and it's a disease, and it's okay to not like that it's on your face and body. Like, we don't have to feel, I don't know, just on top of everything. I was also like, why am I so vain? Why can't I just love my face anyway? And I was like, it's okay to not love a disease. You don't have to. So anyway, I went to a dermatologist and she was basically like, yeah, topical stuff is not going to cut it for this. It just isn't. And that checked out because nothing had. And I do know a lot about skincare, actually. It's a pretty big part of my job for the last decade. So I've always struggled with mild to moderate hormonal acne. When I would get my period, I would break out a little bit. There were times in my life when I first moved to LA, I broke out enough to where I remember people being like, hey, what's a good product? Like, just unsolicited at work, be like, you know what? I tried Proactive and it really helped me. And I'm like, great. We weren't talking about acne, but thank you. It wasn't anything like what I experienced this past year and a half, but enough that people were like, there's something on your face. And I was like, yeah. So anyway, this was by far the worst experience, and I felt frustrated because I was like, in the past, I've always been able to treat those breakouts, and I've been like, I know about skincare. I know how to use gentle, science-based things and patience to correct this. What was different about this time is that it was brought on by a birth control that I went on. I got the implant in my arm, and that just kind of set off like a hormonal train wreck within my body. And I went off of it after like 6 months because I started to break out, and I was like, what the hell? Because my skin had been the clearest it's ever been for like a while leading up to then. Like I literally had no breakouts, no scarring, no nothing. And I started to break out, and then I talked to my doctor and they were like, oh yeah, that's a side effect of this. And I was like, great, can you take it out, please? Would have loved a heads up on that. And so I took it out, and things just still kept getting worse. And then I went on a different birth control, the pill that is actually prescribed for acne because it's got estrogen. So basically what happens when you go on certain types of birth controls, some types of IUDs, some implants, they're progesterone only. And occasionally your body will kind of interpret that as too much testosterone. And the too much testosterone is what causes acne. And that's like there's so many other things that cause acne, and there's so much more to it, but essentially that's what's happening in my case and other times, usually when adult women have hormonal based acne, kind of like around the face and such. So anyway, I went on the pill, which is not a progesterone only birth control. It's progesterone and a synthetic estrogen, which is in a lot of cases helpful for acne, and that's why it's actually FDA approved to be prescribed for the treatment of acne. So I was on that for a while. That didn't work. Then I went on the NuvaRing, which is a similar hormone structure. The only reason I switched to it was I just preferred that to having to remember to take a pill. And in all this time I was using a gentle cleanser, everything fragrance free, everything non-comedogenic. I was using a benzoyl peroxide treatment, alternating with salicylic acid exfoliants to like get down into the pore, everything I've done in the past, and it just kept getting worse no matter what I was doing. So then I went on Differin, and I was like, okay, this is my last thing. Like this should work. Like it's gonna get worse. I don't want it to, but you know, everybody says like if you just wait a few months, and it obviously, like I said, didn't get better. So went to my dermatologist, and she was like, yeah, so basically my hormones just got thrown off enough initially that these like smaller things like the birth control were just not enough to like push the balance back over. And because it was such like a deep rooted internal issue, nothing topical was really cutting it. I wanted to just give a little disclaimer as I start talking now about like what my treatment has been, that obviously not a doctor. So reference. I'm not a doctor. I can only talk about what I've been doing and what has worked for me, but when it comes to any kind of medications, you really need to just talk to your own doctor and figure out what your risks are, what your body needs, and go from there. So I started on a low dose of spironolactone, which we then built up each month, and a like moderate dose of an antibiotic, doxycycline, and then as the spironolactone went up, the doxycycline went down, and then a benzoyl peroxide wash, which I actually really liked. It hasn't irritated my skin at all, just from my dermatologist, and still that birth control. Spironolactone is a slow working thing in the sense that like it's correcting the hormone issue, so it's not like next week you're gonna really, if you have severe acne, nothing works that quickly just because of the like cycle of your skin. But anyway, within a month and a half, I was like, nothing's getting worse. And if anything, it feels like it's flattening out a little bit. But it took about 3 months before I was like, I feel like things are getting better. And after a year and a half, it was so hard to be hopeful. I would get like anxious when I started to be hopeful because there were so many times where I was like, oh my God, I think it's getting a little better. And then I was like, no, that's not happening. It's about to get so much worse. So anyway, it just steadily got better. I did not really experience any side effects. The only side effects that I have experienced personally, sometimes it can make you dehydrated a little bit, and it can make you have to pee more often, and also a little dizzy sometimes because you're kind of dehydrated. So I take it in the evening, and that pretty much alleviates that. Sometimes I have to get up to pee, but not usually. So I just had to make sure that I drank plenty of water, and that's pretty much it. So the downside, I guess, is that probably we're going to start tapering off of it now. I'm probably going to have to stay on some amount of it for like, a while, because it's kind of like what's keeping my hormones level. I'm also just going to make one quick point right now. If you don't agree with taking internal medicines like these, and if you think that spironolactone is evil and that it's going to destroy my body, you can just not comment it. You don't have to say it. You don't have to reach out to me. I was raised by people who kind of feel that way. I've done a lot of my own research, and I talk to my doctor, and I like my doctor, and I trust her, and I'm doing my own internal risk assessment that I feel good about and is working for me, so thank you. Anyway, I have kept an incredibly detailed journal of my routine throughout this like entire process, and when I was doing Differin too, although that one's pretty much irrelevant now because it's just a million entries of me going, well, it's still getting worse. I'll post in the description box like what my routine was exactly, and I don't know, maybe I'll figure out a way to put like some before and after photos on like what I was doing. But essentially my routine is, in the morning, I eat something, drink some water, take the doxycycline, which is an antibiotic, and that's pretty much being tapered out because, you know, you don't want to stay on antibiotics. As quickly as you can be done with them, you should. I wet my face and I wash gently with my fingers with the 5% benzoyl peroxide, like cream wash, for 30 to 60 seconds. And then I rinse my face. I leave it a little bit damp, and I apply usually the Cerave Moisturizer. It doesn't burn my skin. It doesn't do anything. It's so nice and just gentle. So I use that one. That's the one without SPF. And I, apply that when it's still damp, massage it into my skin. And then I'll go in and use an SPF 30. And then in the evening, on a full stomach with plenty of hydration, take the Spironolactone. I use the It Cosmetics Cleansing Balm to do like a pre-cleanse, especially if I have like sunscreen or makeup. Massage that in, rinse everything off, use the 5% benzoyl peroxide wash, 30 to 60 seconds, damp face. Then I'll use a little bit of like rose water toner. And then for a long time, when I started the Spironolactone, I was able to start using the Paula's Choice 2% BHA again, which I've liked for so long and it's helped my skin so many times. But when I was using Differin, you can't really combine salicylic acid and Differin so easily. You kind of can, but it's a whole thing. So I wasn't really doing it then. I started using that, and then on top of the 2% salicylic acid toner, I would put the Cerave Moisturizer, and that's pretty much it. And that's really what, over the last few months has taken my skin from you'll see, I'll put pictures, to this, which I wanted to clarify. Right now, I don't have any makeup on any part of my face that had acne on it. So right now I'm wearing some eye makeup, and I have a little bit of cream bronzer and blush and highlight, but it's all sheer. And I didn't put any a little under eye concealer, but any of this area of my face, there's no concealer, tinted moisturizer, anything. There might be a little crossover of like the sheer bronzer touching some of where the scarring is. I do have scarring quite a bit, and it took a little bit of the like feeling of victory away a little bit. I had to remind myself recently that I was like, I would have given like anything to be where I am right now a few months ago. It's like my skin is like clear. I don't have acne. My skin doesn't feel inflamed. And I was like, but I still feel like insecure about my skin and my face. And it was like the scarring it feels like less like I did it and more like there's still other stuff to do. But I am still like, when I sit and think about it, I'm like, oh my God, thank you. So yeah, I do have like some indentation and coloring. Like it definitely affected my skin's structure, which is frustrating, but I am going to try some treatments for that my dermatologist said she thinks will be pretty effective. So that's next up. But anyway, I wanted to also say, just for my most recent update to my routine. So last time I met with her, we decided to switch things up a little bit now that we're kind of in a different phase. I still can feel a little bit of like hard bumps underneath my like chin, jaw area especially. Not a lot, but a little bit. And so she put me on 0.025% tretinoin, and I'm alternating that every other night and mixing just a pea-size amount with like equal parts the Cerave Moisturizer, which she told me to do. I have obviously started to experience now, because that's a retinoid, I'm experiencing a little more dryness now, a little more irritation, but because I'm doing it every other night and I'm diluting it, it hasn't been anything too crazy. I am starting to feel those little spots like move through now, because she was just saying, like, for one thing, it's good to be on a retinoid, like for anti-aging reasons and everything. Like, it's nice to start incorporating this into your routine, and then also it will help to move through whatever like leftovers there are. So I'm doing that now. So I've stopped doing the salicylic acid. So now it's super simple. It's the same thing I just said, except without the Paula's Choice BHA And so I'm just going like rose water toner, CeraVe moisturizer, and then every other night I don't do the rose water toner, even though I'm sure it's fine, but I'm just like scared of retinoids, so I'm like, as few products as possible, please. I'm mixing a little bit of CeraVe. I'm applying a layer of CeraVe after I wash my face, and then I'm letting that kind of dry down and my skin stop being like flushed from washing. Not that it gets super flushed, but you know what I mean. Give it a minute to recover, and then I mix a pea-sized amount of tretinoin with CeraVe, massage that into my face, avoiding the eye areas, etc. And nothing crazy has happened. It's been almost a month that I've been doing that. It's just kind of moving things through. So that's what I'm doing. As far as scarring treatments, I will update you guys about that as well. We're pretty much just waiting for the weather to be cooler, because she was saying it's, you know, it's like irritating to your skin to do, so it's nice to not do it like in the middle of summer. I wanted to just talk a little bit about the psychological aspect of this. I kept wishing that I could get to a point where I was like, I love my face and I'm totally unbothered by this, and it'll get better when it gets better, because, you know, I still don't want to have like a painful face anymore. But as far as the appearance, I'm totally chilling and it doesn't bother me at all. And I feel totally sexy and beautiful. And that didn't happen. That still hasn't happened. Even with the scarring, I'm still like, whatever that sound was. You know what? I'm standing by that sound, because it really does feel like that's what's happening. This is kind of hard to admit. I don't think it makes me look particularly great, but I saw like an acne positivity account, and it was this beautiful girl, and she had severe acne that was at various stages of healing, and she posted these like amazing, beautiful pictures of herself in the sunlight, nothing edited, just being like, I still feel beautiful. And I saw this account and I was scrolling through it, and I started to cry, because I was like, I don't want to do that. I thought she looked beautiful and I admired her so much, but I didn't feel like I want to be like that. I felt like, please don't let me still have this and I don't want to have to accept it. Like, I don't want to have to learn to feel beautiful right now, which is like, and again, it wasn't that I was like, oh, she doesn't look beautiful. It's like, I thought she looked amazing and her pictures were beautiful, and I was like, this is an incredible human being who is both physically attractive and clearly light years ahead of me emotionally. And I wasn't even inspired by it so much as I was like, no, I don't want to have to be, I just want to not have acne. I just want to not have acne. And I think I got like maybe like this scooted over like from here to like here as far as having that attitude ultimately. Because I'm like, at the end of the day, I just still want my skin to be clear. I don't want to wear makeup, and I don't want to feel like I have to wear makeup, like especially base. I don't like wearing foundation. I don't even really like wearing tinted moisturizer. Like, I want my skin to just look really nice and be able to play with like other things like bronzer and eyeshadow and stuff. I don't want to have to like have stuff on my face. You know, it's at that point it is kind of a vanity thing, but it's like, I've been so hard on myself for feeling like that, and I'm like, I need a break. I need a break of just being like, you're terrible at this about so many things. Basically, the point of what I'm saying right now is I just wanted to let you know, if you're struggling with acne and feeling shitty about it, me too. And you're not alone, because when I made that last video, I was so nervous to make it, because I was like, oh my God, like, I look so disgusting. I don't want anyone to see this. And I got so many messages from people being like, and comments too, just expressing that they felt the same way. And it was so cathartic, and it did kind of surprise me. Not in the sense that like, obviously tons of people struggle with acne, but just that I wasn't alone in how much it hurt internally and how much it affected my self-worth. And I felt like I couldn't date. I felt like I couldn't go anywhere. I felt like I couldn't even, like, anytime I met anyone, like, I would go to pick up my son from preschool and be like, oh my God. Like, and it was like this heavy blanket on me all the time. And in addition to feeling like a heavy blanket, all the time. I felt stupid and shallow for feeling like I had a heavy blanket on me all the time. And like, people don't really help with that much either, because I feel like unless you have experienced severe acne, you just don't get it. I mean, I guess that's true of most of the human experience. If you haven't fully experienced a hard thing yourself, it's kind of hard to understand what somebody's going through. With this, because it has this like outward appearance part of it, I can't remember if I told this story or not already, but not in this video, but like in a previous one. When I was still using Differin, the first time that things had been bad long enough, but they like started, I had like a day where I woke up and it was in a like down moment of getting new lesions. I saw the texture of my skin a little more clearly because it wasn't just like swollen pustules all over my face. And I saw the like indented scarring, and I've never had that before. And I was like, I'm almost 30, and now, like, first of all, this isn't getting better really, and second of all, I can now see that once it gets better, I'm gonna have acne scarring, like obvious, like dipping into my skin acne scarring. And it like just defeated me for a minute. Like I was so, for a day and then continued to bother me for days going forward. But anyway, I was just so upset, and I called someone, and I was just crying, talking about how I was like, I'm gonna have scarring from this, and so even when it's gone, I'm still gonna like have my skin be messed up. And the way her tone was like, and the things that she was saying, I could tell that she was like a little put off. She was like a little bit judging that I would be crying about my skin. Kind of, it was a little bit of like oh, I'm sorry, but also like this isn't like a real problem, and I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt here and say like, you're kind of sad about this, but mostly you're sad about real shit, you know? Yeah, not so much what I needed to hear. It's fine. She was trying to help, and she has not experienced that, and so she doesn't get it. But I wanted to let you know that I do get it, and I still feel like even right now I'm being kind of petty talking about this. It's so silly. And like, I have to give all these disclaimers. I also didn't want to talk about this for a while because with everything going on in the world, I was like, let me just pop up and my skin is making me really sad. And it's like, okay, so there's some priorities for like what we're talking about at this time. So I want to like acknowledge all of that, and that yes, it's not life or death, and there's other more important things, and there's space for, in this video where I'm talking about this and you've clicked on it, we can acknowledge that it can really, really fuck you up mentally and emotionally, and it's very common to feel that way, and it's super devastating to pretty much everyone that experiences it. And I just feel like every time I hear somebody acknowledge how much it hurts, it somehow like collectively makes it not hurt so much, because it's like, oh, someone understands. And I just wanted to share that basically. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful for you guys. I'm gonna try to figure out a way to post like, you know, some little pictures and text, you know, like an excerpt from my diary about this, in case that is helpful to anybody. And thank you for watching. I will see you guys soon. I also am for the 8 millionth time going to say, I'm starting to get back on a more regular schedule, and I do anticipate making more videos in the near future. So if you want to like, subscribe, you're welcome to do those things, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.